Beautiful. Thank you so much, Angel. Angel is our angel and our artist of the month, supporting us this month. And we're so grateful. So I want you to give some love on Facebook Live. Let's see, what side is it? Is it on this side? Is this where the hearts go float up? Yeah, it's over here. Hearts, 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 hearts for Angel. And we're so grateful. What a perfect song for today. Amen. What a great opportunity. Good morning, everyone on Facebook. Our love streamers, right? We're live streaming, but I know a lot of love streamers. Love streamers. That's what they've been calling them at Agape for a long time. So we'll borrow that phrase, love streamers. So to all of our love streamers and our guests and friends that are tuning in out there, we're so grateful. What an opportunity we have been given, and everyone has been given, right, to step into this atmosphere of something that we say often, but I wonder how much we really practice it, and that is to be the church, right? To be the church outside of the building, right? Sometimes I get Facebook ads, right, for things that I've done shopping for, and I'm sure you do too. And so one that I get constantly is this, it's actually a Christian company that does shirts and things, and they have a shirt that says, "The church has left the building." And which I don't think has anything to do with everything that's happening right now. It was more of a social justice message of getting out beyond the walls. But every time it pops up, I just laugh because I say, well, that's the truth for every church right now, right? The church has left the building. So what an opportunity that we have to come together and to not be about the building, but to be about the community right where we are. In the Gospel of Thomas, it says, "The kingdom of God is inside of you and all around you, not in mansions of woods and stones. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me." And so what we're discovering is that divine presence is right there where we are. We come together in this time virtually, but we are connecting into a power and a presence that always has us all connected together. Amen? And so we're focusing on the divine feminine this month, being Women's History Month. And last week I talked about the law as womb, that nurturing place, and the way in which the law is consistently applying the sum total of our thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs, and manifesting those things through what we create, promote, or allow, that it is the incubation space in which those things emerge into the activity of our life. And it was a powerful opportunity to look at what we have birthed, what we are creating right now, and how that relates to what's the message that's trying to get through. The key point and takeaway from last week was about asking, not so much about how did I create something, not how did I create this atmosphere, not how did I create this layoff or whatever things we might be going through, but rather, what is it teaching me? How can this thing be my teacher? Right? This is a much more powerful question. You can ask how it got there and where it came from, and you can get insights about that. However, that's living life in the rearview mirror. And so I think that I only find that to be so helpful, right? Helpful a little bit because we're constantly wondering why. But really the more powerful question going forward is, how is this? I've birthed it. However I've birthed it, it's here. So how is it my teacher? What is it here to bring to me? So that was last week. And this week I want to move into talking about nurturing as strength, the aspect of the divine feminine as nurturing, and how we can reclaim that principle, that activity, that energy as a strength for us, and how important it is to reclaim that as a strength right here and right now. The qualities of nurturing that one associates with the feminine is one that often is associated with the feminine, but what does it mean? What does it really mean to be nurturing? And what does it mean to be strong, or to be tough, or to be macho? What does it mean to be compassionate and caring? What does it mean to be empathetic? Which of these are strength, and which of these are whatever we think the opposite of that is? You see, these are gender associations that we've made in our society from a binary construct, that some of these qualities are more masculine and some of these qualities are more feminine, and some belong to little boys and some belong to little girls, and we grow up in these paradigms that flood our world and our consciousness, and they become very powerful in shaping our reality. It's particularly evident when you have a young child, when you have a toddler, right? When you're walking through the stores, and the young toddler, if it's a little boy, as our William has, gravitates to the pink broom house cleaning toy set, right? And then you go, what do I do? Do I say, no, that toy's not for you? Or do I say, well, yeah, let's get that. You're gravitating to it, you're playing with it. Do I nurture that quality, or do I suppress it as the parent? And what things have been nurtured or suppressed in us based on what we've been exposed to? And so we're going to explore that a bit today, and how we bring that nurturing element into our spiritual understanding. Nurturing is the act of caring, loving, encouraging, cheering on, reassuring, inspiring. These are all ways that we could describe nurturing. Who must I be encouraged and cared for the growth in the person that is growing inside of me? I must be a person of strength and emotional maturity. There's a ability to nurture that side of ourselves. Nurturing requires that we look inward, to reflect and to analyze our own behaviors and emotions, as well as meet the needs of others and our own. This type of introspection is not tied to gender, sex, or social identity. Instead, this requires the courage and strength and power for all of us to develop. It is not for the weak or the faint of heart. And what we're seeing right now is that nurturing capacity of ourselves is being called forward more than it ever has before. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that all of the ways of strength and quote unquote manliness are sort of falling away, and all of the qualities of nurturing and compassion and caring are being flooded into our awareness, that those are the things that are needed right now. But when we grow up in a binary construct, when we grow up in this reality, seeming reality or illusion really, of this or that we can struggle. I grew up without a father figure in my life for most of my life until high school, when my mother found my stepdad, who she's still married to now, was a wonderful man. But by 15 years old, I had he didn't really play a father figure role as much as a friend and companion in my life, which was a beautiful and wonderful thing and right on time. But prior to that, I really struggled with the identity of what it meant to be a boy, what it meant to be growing into manhood, because I didn't have that father figure around me. And I wondered, well, where am I supposed to get this from? Because I was flooded, as everybody is, with social messaging that says this is what it means. You gotta look like this, and you gotta behave like this, and you gotta be like that, and you gotta and I didn't have anybody that was modeling any of that for me to judge or to say that it was right or wrong, and so I was sort of just left in this sort of curious space for a long time that I struggled with for quite a while. I didn't have that dominant positive figure until much later. And so I wondered, I had to grow into being a man, but a man versus what? And actually what was modeled to me, you see, all the elements that I would associate, or one that would associate in a binary construct of quote unquote manliness, strength, leadership, take charge attitude, running the house, providing, disciplining, toughness in tough times, all of those things were actually modeled by my mother, right? So shout out online to all the single mothers out there that are doing double duty in their households, right? All of those things that one in a binary world would associate with manliness or the masculine were modeled by my mother. And so I didn't quite know what to do with that, because I just thought mom was being mom, but I didn't know how to integrate what was being modeled into what I was supposed to become until much later. And thankfully I had teen camp, and I had lots of places to go and kind of, process those ideas and those questions. But it also made me understand much later, as I reflected, that there's a singular thing that's trying to emerge as all of us. And it's not a choice that we have to choose to be more masculine or more feminine, but there's a single integration. Thankfully, I grew up in this wonderful philosophy that talks about the masculine and the feminine are together as one in the spirit, that we have both of these ideas inside of us. But I must admit that it continued on as I met my now life partner and wife, and I thought to myself as she had a young boy, 9 years old at the time, and I thought, well, as we got very committed in our relationship, I thought, well, what do I know about raising boys? What do I know about being a father? How am I going to do that? And it extended even to the point where as Patience and I were dreaming about our life together and what we were doing and having a child, we said, well, we got the boy thing figured out. We've got that handled. We've got that experience, right? So we want a girl. We really want to have a girl. Let's have a girl. And all of our energy was around having a girl. And so, of course, we had a boy. Of course we did, right? Because it doesn't work the way you just say, well, I would this is not shopping at Walmart or at Amazon. There's some other things involved in the process. You don't just get to choose like that. But when that happened, you see, I immediately understood why it happened. You see, my father wasn't in my life, and he grew up in foster care, was actually sexually abused in foster care from the stories that I understand. He was abandoned by his father, and there are even rumors that I can't quite confirm through family lineage that his father was also abandoned by his father. So there's a generational thing that was happening there for several generations, and so it comes to me, of course I had a boy, so that I could heal the pattern. Right? So I could heal the cycle, so that I could say, I'm the generation that will do something different. And you see, and I later realized and had emerged in my awareness that even the question I was asking was problematic. When I would say, I don't know what to do about raising boys. You see, there's something problematic even about the statement, because it's about doingness. The masculine energy is always about the doingness. And the opportunity to heal the cycle, what Mother Earth and what Mother Nature is asking of us right now is not about what we're doing, but about who we're becoming as we do whatever it is we need to do. So healing the cycle takes a nurturing strength. And if we look at what's happening in the world today, we would recognize and understand that we have been in the midst of a toxic masculinity that has gotten out of control. Right? A toxic masculinity that has been at the forefront of running everything, and it's been in control for a very long time. It's been in control in religion, it's been in control in politics, it's been in control in the economy and in our society, in sports. It's driven everything. And in case you're not familiar with what a world run by toxic masculinity looks like, let me point it out to you. It looks like overspending. It looks like massive debt. It looks like endless consumerism. It looks like the Buddhist concept of the hungry ghost, which is this figure that has an enormous appetite but a pinhole for a mouth, so it can never consume enough to satiate its appetite. It looks like policies and practices that benefit the few but oppress the masses. Toxic masculinity looks like a kind of economic slavery that adheres a whole class of people to lower paying job cycles that are very hard to break and to get out of. It looks like massive consumer credit debt. It looks like practices that plunder and rape our natural resources for gain and don't seek reparation, balance, or sustainability. This is what toxic masculinity looks like. In politics, it looks like that the biggest, ugliest, and meanest voices win because it plays on our fears of fight or flight and the reptilian brain of humanity. And so we gravitate to the alpha male that seeks to dominate the conversation. Have you seen any examples of toxic masculinity? It also looks like the painful cries for help to break the cycle, like the mass shootings that happen repeatedly by the dominant predator of the toxic masculinity, white males. It looks like high rates of suicide. It looks like addiction to painkillers and numbing behavior. It looks like a society that checks out with mindless television and patterns of numbing just to survive. But here's the thing. As we talked about law last week, what you must understand is that you can break yourself against the law, but you can't break the law. You can break yourself against the law. You can run wildly out of control in patterns of behavior that aren't good for you or aren't good for the earth or aren't good for humanity. You can break yourself against the law, but you can't break the law. The law of the universe, Ernest Holmes says, the fundamental law of the universe is a law of harmony. A law of harmony. We've talked about this before. We've talked about two dissonant notes vibrate. They sound off in our ear. They're not in harmony with each other, but they vibrate through the universe, and the frequency of those notes vibrate until they get beyond past our capacity to humanly to even hear them, and they end up reconciling themselves in harmony. The fundamental law of the universe is a law of harmony. Everything is seeking to balance itself out. And so Mother Earth has sent us all to our rooms to think about what we've done. Right? You ever had that happen as a kid? You ever get in trouble, right? Your mother comes in the room and catches you doing whatever, right? Your hand in the cookie jar or whatever it may be. And it's the third or fourth lecture. And you know, we certainly know this as a parent of both a toddler and a teenager, right? There's all the different approaches. There's the kindness approach. Let me just talk gently. Let me affirm your value and worth. And let me just say what I would prefer you do, right? And then that doesn't work, right? And then there's the stern warning, and then that doesn't work. And then there's, you know, over and over and over again, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, if there is a rebellion spirit in the child or in humanity, that conversation has to happen over and over and over again until finally we get to the point where we say, enough is enough, right? You need to go to your room and think about what you've done. My mother would used to say, and don't come out until you've thought good and hard about what you've done and what you're going to do to change it, right? How you're going to be a better person. Don't you dare come out of that room until you're ready to be a different person, right? And so what do we see that has happened, right? Mother Earth has given us warnings over and over again, fires and floods and earthquakes and hurricanes and all kinds of issues trying to balance itself out. And humanity has given us warnings that the cry of the mother nature and mother nurturing spirit of us has tried to get us to come together through mass shootings and through all of the other troubles of humanity that we've had, and inhumane policies and discrimination and everything else, to always to bring us back to covenant, always to bring us back to center, always to bring us back to remembering that we're in this together. And the rebellious spirit of us, of that toxic masculinity that is only out for itself and its own gain and its own power, has gone on and on and on without listening. And so finally, Mother Nature has said, enough is enough. Everyone to your room, 6 feet apart, and wash your hands on the way. Right? And boom, there we are. And it's like, oh, okay. And so what is it that we're being asked to really think about? You see that we are taught that keeping this broken system alive is the measure of strength and masculinity, right? To go, to succeed and to win, to earn more money, to get more status, to get more for you and yours, to get up early so that you can get in the traffic, so that you can be there first, so that you can get off and you can get home and you can do this and do that. And all of it, we've thought that all of those things, participating in that and being the master of that and being good at those things, we were taught that keeping this system alive, this broken system, was the measure of strength. But we were lied to. These are not the signs of strength. They were coping mechanisms born of fatigue and weakness. What requires strength is where we are now, to slow down and to open up, to listen, and to really take in what's trying to happen. What requires strength is to nurture our becoming rather than perform our doing. Right? To nurture our becoming rather than to perform our doing. I imagine a lot of people are having struggles with what to do. And everybody's online talking about, well, what are you doing during this time? What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you coping? What are you doing? It's not a time for more doing. It's just a time for more being. And I'll admit that even I was caught up in that pattern. At the center, we've had some changes and things happening. And so we've used this sort of little bit of a lull and quiet space to get more doing done, to bring on new systems like the Breeze system. We'll talk about that at our business meeting next week and some other things. And we've been very busy, and I've been very busy doing more than I've ever done. And it's like I've been watching on Facebook, everybody, kind of taking walks in nature and doing yoga at home and all of these things. And, some people posting about what Shakespeare did during the Black Plague. He wrote this and wrote that, and what Newton did and all of these things. And I'm like, well, they didn't have a toddler, okay? And a teenager, right? We got a lot of doing. We got to keep them busy. We got to keep ourselves, And so it wasn't until yesterday when finally all of that doingness kind of subsided, and I had to get ready for today. And I was able, thankfully, to sit out on my deck and to listen to the birds. And I sat there with my iPad, and rather than doing my normal sermon prep, which I would do down in my office when it's colder, I thought, I can do it outside today because it's so nice. And I sat there and I was preparing to meditate, and I meditate, and then I come out of the meditation and I write, and I maybe do some research or find a passage or a poem or those sorts of things. And I go back and forth in that process for a while. And I sat there, and the only thing I could do was simply sit and listen to the birds for about 3 hours, right? And I felt like I should be really getting ahead. I should really start writing something now. I don't normally sit in my study or my office at home for 3 hours that long. I would have produced something by then, right? And so I started to get anxious. And the anxiety kept rising, and I thought, well, maybe I need to go down to my study. Maybe this isn't the space. Maybe out here on the deck in the open air and the beautiful sunshine with the birds singing isn't the place. And then it came to me, no, this is exactly where you belong. And put down the pen. You don't need to be writing anything right now. Just listen to the birds. Just observe what's happening. And eventually I did get to writing and producing. And I found this, a fellow colleague of mine posted it online, a passage by Emma Zeck, Z-E-C-K, Emma Zeck, who said this: with this open time, you do not have to write the next best-selling novel. You do not have to get in to the best shape of your life. You do not have to start that podcast. What you can do instead is observe this pause as an opportunity. The same systems we see crumbling in society are being called to crumble in each of us individually. The systems that taught us that we are machines, that live to produce, and that we are disposable if we do not do so. The system that has taught us that monetary gain takes priority over our humanity. The system that creates our insecurities and then capitalizes off of them. What if we became curious with this free time and had no agenda other than to experience being? What if you allowed yourself to rest and to cry, to laugh, and to play, and to get curious about whatever arises in you? What if our true purpose is in this space? What if Mother Earth is saying, we can no longer carry on this way? The time is now, and I'm reminding you who you are. Will you remember? You see, and it takes real strength to nurture our becoming over performing our doing. And so as I've contemplated this and contemplated even how we move forward as a spiritual community, I like to put things together in little sequences that I can remember. And so in our business meeting, you'll hear me speak about this next sequence of things from an administrative standpoint, but today I'm going to deliver them as a spiritual standpoint. And a few people that are present, including some board members, should be very impressed that had we had the annual meeting today, the tie-in would have been fabulous. But we'll catch up next week. So the platform for moving forward to nurturing strength in ourselves. You all remember the phrase, get ready, get set, grow. Right? Get ready, get set, go. Right? We do that with William all the time. We'll say, get ready, and he'll get down into a little corner. He'll put his foot up against the wall. We'll say, get set. He'll put his little butt up in the air, and we say, go, and he'll get up and he'll take off running. And it's almost a trigger response. We could say it any time, anywhere, and he'll move into that behavior because he loves to run around. And so that inspired me to say, well, let me play with those words a little bit. And so instead of get ready, I'm saying get right. The first step is to, when we pause and we take a break from the craziness of the world, then we have to get right with spirits. The universe, Mother Earth, is asking us, get right. Get in right relationship with the divine. Remember who you are. Get right with the divinity within you. There's a beautiful poem by David Wagner that says this, stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. You must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and to be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again saying, here. No two trees are same to raven. No two branches are same to wren. If what a tree or a branch does is lost on you, then surely you are lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. So the first step in our awakening and our development is to get right. To get right with our spirit, to get right with principle, to get right with the divinity that has made us and has placed us here for a divine and holy purpose. What does it mean to get right for you in your life? I invite you to take that in. What does it mean to get right? Get right with principle. See, here's the thing about getting right. It's a beautiful thing about what sometimes happens in responding to the fear that arises when we pause long enough to let fear arise, to allow ourselves to cry or to be vulnerable or to think, well, what if I can't pay the bills, or what if this happens, or what if that, whatever the what ifs are. Here's the deal. You cannot lose what was freely given to you. You cannot lose what was freely given to you. The moment of your birth, the moment of your creation, you were given a holiness and a rightness, a right relationship with the divine, a worthiness, a connection to prosperity and health and well-being. You cannot lose any of that because it was freely given to you. You can abuse it, you can forget it, you can forget that you had it, you can act as if you don't, but you cannot lose it. Because it was freely given to you. It cannot be taken away. So what does it mean to get right with that which is your divine nature? And after we get right, then we get set. I kept this one the same. Get set. Get set to me is about kind of resetting the table. It's like, let me get set for what this next phase in my life is. Let me get set for what's really trying to happen here. I often will tell people who are single, who are trying to manifest their divine partner, I will say, make a meal and make it for two, right? Set the table, right? Actually create the space to invite the right person into your life. Set the table for two and make enough food for two, right? So set the table in your life to get set. What's happening? Listen in this time of humanity to what we are becoming, and better yet, listen to what wants to become of you. Right? At first we say, mention or listen to what we're becoming during this time, but better yet, listen to what wants to become you. nurture the emergence of something by getting the table set in your life. Another poem, see, I moved a lot. The birds inspired me to go into poetry this week. This poem by David White, who says, sometimes, if you move carefully through the forest, breathing like the ones in the old stories, who could cross a shimmering bed of leaves without making a sound, you come to a place whose only task is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests. Conceived out of nowhere, but in this place beginning to lead to everywhere. Request to stop what you are doing right now and to stop what you are becoming while you do it. Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have patiently awaited you. Questions that have no right to go away. Sometimes, if you move carefully through the forest, breathing like the ones in the old stories, who could cross a shimmering bed of leaves without making a sound, you come to a place whose only task is to trouble you with tiny but frightening requests, conceived out of nowhere, but in this place beginning to lead to everywhere. Requests to stop what you are doing right now and to stop what you are becoming while you do it. Questions that can make or unmake a life. Questions that have patiently awaited you. Questions that have no right to go away. I believe that there are questions that have been waiting for us to answer as humanity. Questions that have no right to go away. Questions that have patiently waited for this moment if we're willing to set the table and say, what is trying to happen here? Because here's the truth. I said last week there is no going back to normal, and I still believe that that's true. But of course, traffic on 85 will get plugged up again, right? Stores and bars and restaurants will open up again. Airlines will fly again. There will be some return of things, but the question becomes, in what form? And are those things, do they find their way in new balance with harmony and with sustainability and with a greater sense of wholeness? What are the questions of what's trying to become in this moment? Who are we to become, and what is becoming of us as we do this? And finally, grow. So get right, get set, and grow. And I'm not going to speak a lot about this one today because we need to spend time in the spaces of getting right and getting set. But growing, I just want you to know that that's where it goes, right? It leads to a place of growth, that growth becomes the natural outproduct. It becomes the natural byproduct of right alignment. That the growth of your life, financial growth, the prosperity growth, the relationship growth, the well-being growth, the fulfillment of your purpose growth, the growth in every aspect that you can imagine grows because it becomes the natural byproduct of being in right alignment through being set, getting right and getting set. And because we are guided and directed by our purpose rather than our pursuits. We grow because we're guided and directed by our purpose rather than our pursuits. To get right, to get set and grow, then we grow because we're guided by our purpose. I'm here to be a being of light. I'm here to be a being of love. I'm here to produce more justice and equity in the world. I'm here to contribute to law of love and harmony. Whatever your purpose is for you, to get right with that, to get set and set the table for that, and then to grow as the byproduct of that. What you do for living, how you show up in relationship, all of those other things flow out of that place because you're directed and guided by your purpose rather than your pursuits. To get right, to get set, and to grow. This is the space that we're in, and it takes a certain kind of strength to have the courage to nurture ourselves and each other in this time. One last antidote, and then our affirmation and prayer. I recently read something about Margaret Mead, about somebody asking her a question about the first signs of civilization. What were the first signs that a group of indigenous people historically would have become, quote unquote, civilized? How would one measure that? And it was a student writing a paper, as I recall, and the antidote says that the person asking the question was anticipating the development of some tool, fish hooks or arrows, or the use of some objects, sticks or rocks as tools, that would be the first sign of a group of people, nomadic people, becoming, quote unquote, civilized. And she said, no, the first sign of a group of people becoming civilized that we have is a broken femur bone that healed. And it threw the student off, and it threw everybody else in the room off of what would a broken femur bone have to do with becoming civilized. And she said, well, what you need to understand is that in the animal kingdom, if you broke your leg, you died. You didn't have the time to rest and heal. There was no one to take care of you. You became stationary. You became meat for the next predator coming by. But in humanity, if somebody broke their leg and we found the age of a femur bone that was broken but had been reset and healed, it meant that somebody took care of that somebody. Somebody took the time to reset the leg. Somebody took time to keep the predators away. Somebody took time to make sure the person was still fed and nurtured and tended to while the leg healed, and then the person continued to live a life after that with a healed femur bone. So the first sign of society, the first sign of civilization is in fact that we care for each other, that we nurture each other, and we nurture each other in times of need. We nurture our wounds, we nurture our losses, and we come together in times of crisis. That is the sign of civilization, a sign that perhaps we have lost in these days leading up to now, but we are beginning to see reemerge. The singing from balconies, and the dolphins returning to the canals in Italy, and the birds returning to Wuhan, and the pollution dissipating in the atmosphere. Mother Earth, in this timeout that humanity is taking, is healing itself. And so I invite us, as we move into prayer, to have this affirmation for ourselves as we take this time to get ready, to get set, and to grow. This is from Ernest Holmes, and it says, I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am, that nurtures and supports me in ways that I could not even imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing and all-powerful and is always right where I am. I live in the faith that there is a presence and power greater than I am, that nurtures and supports me in ways that I could not even imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing and all-power and is always right where I am. So with that, I invite us to take a breath, to move into that affirmative posture of prayer, which is simply a breathing and opening up to the divine idea that right where I am, God is. That in the midst of this space, there is indeed a power and a presence, and it is indeed nurturing us in ways that we can't even possibly imagine. But we are beginning to see it now in the ways that humanity is coming together, bonding together, reaching across and cooperating and caring for each other, even in the space of what we have called social distancing. We are choosing to not be so isolated. We are choosing to reach out, to connect, to go deep, first and foremost with ourselves, and then with and for our neighbors, our friends, our family. And so how wonderful it is to feel this divine nurturing presence, caring for us, asking questions of us, asking us to be present with what it is that we are becoming in this moment and who it is that we want to be as individuals and as a society on the other side of this experience. I invite each one of us to let this moment be our teacher and to nurture us into our next becoming. How wonderful it is to feel the rhythms of the earth, the breathing of Mother Earth, and the synchronicity of humanity once again falling back into line with that dynamic presence. that power, that presence greater than I am, that nurtures and strengthens me in multiple ways. That presence that is all-knowing and all-powerful and is always right where I am. So with this, we release this prayer, release this breath, and simply give thanks, knowing that it is so. And together we say, and so it is.